Hey.
Like, strong after one, instead of just having a room. And that's where I think-
Anybody disagree with this?
Okay,
Statement?
thank you.
Teaching can be a stressful job, and so can being a principal. Practicing mindfulness can serve as a valuable antidote to stress. Many educators experience juggling the competing demands common during the school day. Anyone in disagreement with that? Okay. So I have just short videos of my principal talking about why we've implemented mindfulness to show you guys. I have a short video of some of my students talking about it. They're going to take you on a tour of our peaceful place, which is our mindful space we just have this year. We took away our speech pathologist room. She was only there like 1.5 days a week, so now she shares with our social worker. And we have this room that's dedicated to self-regulation and mindfulness and whatever teachers or students want it to be. But before I show you guys that, we talked briefly this morning, and Toby touched on it as well, about the experience of being a teacher these days. So I was talking to Duke at lunch about a video that I saw on some sort of educational group that I belong to on Facebook. Because I've deleted most of, I don't see people anymore on Facebook. I see these publications that I follow. So I saved this video last night of this teacher. Oh, and this too, how my year is going so far. But this is a teacher's emotional testimony to a school board just about her day. It's 3 minutes and 25 seconds long, and I just think it connects to the state of teaching today and the state of being in education. And then I'll show you my real students.
Is that within your PowerPoint, or is that not?
No, this is not, but if you want it, I couldn't figure out how to save it not on Facebook. So
I don't know how to do it.
I know, I was like, how do I get this? But let's see. Okay, no sound, hold on.
I'm a first year teacher, and sorry, I'm upset because I had kind of a rough day. As I'm sure many of us who came here straight from school did. I don't know if I can stay teaching forever, and that makes me really sad. Because this is not my first career. I came back to school to be a teacher, and I really love the students that I work with, and sorry. I thought I would have time to prepare a statement today, but I woke up early to work on grading, and then I got to school early because I host a club before school for LGBTQ students, which I love, but it's hard because they often don't feel loved by the adults in their lives, so my days start off a little rough sometimes with them. And then at planning, I had 2 different meetings. I heard that, yeah. And then at lunch, I had a student in my room. We were registering for high school classes today, and he had an anxiety attack about the transition to high school. And so I was sitting with him at lunch, so I didn't have time to plan statements. But I just think about how much was put on us. And I know a lot of other new teachers, some of them do not have other career experiences like I have, where they've gotten training in ACEs or de-escalation, and they're struggling even more than I am, because we're not given any social and emotional support, really. I was so proud when I heard that Nashville is a city that embraces restorative practice. That was something really important to me when I was looking for a job as a new teacher. But we don't do enough. A lot of the teachers I've talked to who have been teaching much longer than me are frustrated by the restorative practice because they feel like they're given no support to make it happen. They've never actually been trained to do it. There's nobody in the building that can help them. And so we're all kind of struggling for something that we believe in, but don't know how to put in place and haven't been given support for. And then on top of that, we're going home and we're working more, or we have a second job. I don't have a second job. I'm really lucky that I don't, but I also don't have kids or a house, and I don't know that I could have those things. And that makes me sad. It makes me really sad that I have to go home and order a whole bunch more pencils and journals on Amazon tonight because I have students that have like run out of spaces in their journals and are coming to class and saying I can't do any more work because my mom can't buy me another journal. Or I don't have anything to write with today. And that's just basic materials. I also don't have enough copies of textbooks. I never have technology access in my classroom. My projector doesn't always work, so I don't even have that. And so I just think of someone who is new to this, who went back to school to do this, and I want to tell other people, you should be a teacher. I want to tell my students, you should be a teacher, but how can I do that when I feel like I can't keep doing it? Thank you. Thank you.
Thoughts on that? Anyone? Yeah. That's just the state of affairs right now, right? And I'm lucky at my district, I don't have to worry about things like pencils. I don't have to worry about things like my kids running out of supplies. But again, like we said in the beginning, some of the issues they're coming in with, I don't know how to fix and I don't know how to help them. But enter mindfulness as a restorative practice for me first. I can sit with them calmly and at least listen, right? I can sit with them calmly and offer some sort of breathing technique. But she's right, how could I tell anyone else, like, yeah, be a teacher, if that's the sad state of affairs. So this video that's linked right here is another 2-minute video of a school in California through Mindful Schools, just talking about what mindfulness has done for them. They're teenagers, but I thought, why won't I show you my own students? And if you want to, you can click on that other short video, because this presentation is yours. We have a breathing room at my school now, and we have a breathing room for everything else. So why not create one at your home? I have a corner in my bedroom. My house is small, so that's where I do my meditating, sometimes just in bed. These are my 8th graders talking about why they wanted to be. We have a mindful group of mentors at my school. I just asked, after I did some mindful activities last school year with my 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, I then just sent a Google form out to my kids, asked who wanted to be a part of a group that would then go into our lower school classes, because we're K-8, just to teach some little activities. And I had all these kids. I have 8 7th graders, and I have 4 8th graders, and 6 6th graders who just really wanted to be on that. So that's what you'll see right there. And then that's my principal, Adam. He came in with restorative practices as a foundation and shifted the culture of my school single-handedly. The principal we had before was not a bad person, but I think she just lost her way in what her intention and goal was with being a leader. And unfortunately, then the culture of our school changed, and there was a lot of union involvement all the time. There was blaming, there was all the things on this side of the screen that Sophie was showing us. And when I asked my principal this year what his word was, he chose serenity. I'm like, why are you choosing? All right, I'm not supposed to question the words. Like, that is not your word. But he wore his bracelet for a while, maybe like a month, and it fell off. It was pretty funny. And he's like, I don't think that was my word, Lauren. I'm like, I don't think that was your word either. What is your word? It's like resilience. And then you spoke to that as well. I'm like, that is your freaking word. So we'll get to him. It's a short, he just talks more about implementation at our school and how it fits in with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and more of like special services, because that's his jam. So I'll play my 8th graders quick. Just talking about why they wanted to be in the group.
Does for me is it helps me refocus and relax so I can go back to class and focus on what we're learning, not on things going on outside of school and with our learning and stuff like that. I think other schools should have a room like this because it is really important to be focused in school. When you have other things going on in your mind, it's really hard to focus and like relax and just calm down every people get stressed and like worked up at school a lot. I think it's important for them to have a space where they can just calm down on their own, and where it can be really calm for them and peaceful, like doing that. Does this school or does this room help you in school? This space does help me in school a lot because I feel like it's a place, it's like a private place for me. It's a safe place almost because I know I can go there and I can just calm down on my own and do what I need to do and get all my feelings out or talk to myself, and like I can just do it in the privacy and everything. So I think it does help me. What is your favorite mindful activity? I think my favorite mindful activity is either helping the little kids with their mindful activities, or probably just sitting in here and just closing my eyes and talking to myself through things. But I think helping the little kids is I think my favorite activity because we get to show them and be mentors for them on how to be calm and relaxed, and then they can go and teach their friends. So it's really rewarding to see that happen when you see kids telling other kids to calm down.
My name is Claroma. I'm one of the Bannockburn School Mindful Leaders, and I'm here to answer some questions. Why did I become a mindful leader? I became a mindful leader because I wanted to increase or learn some leadership skills and help my confidence as I go into high school next year, and I can do that as I go into other classrooms and stand in front of lots of kids and explain and show them how to be a better mindful student. Why did you decide to volunteer your time to help Senior Art Day and other kids? As an 8th grader here, I have to be a role model to the lower school kids. So giving up my time is the least I can do as I help them become better mindful kids in school or outside of school.
For you, being in this room helps me calm down or refocus when I'm stressed out or had an argument. This other schools should have a room like this because there are other students that need some time to refocus or regain focus and calm down because they also have stressful lives maybe, and they need a space to relax and just breathe out. This space does help me in school because if I'm stressed out or had a bad test or a bad day, I can just come in here, breathe in and breathe out, and just close my eyes and just relax and focus. My favorite mindful activity is the dog exercise or dog breathing exercise. It's when you put a dog or stuffed dog on your stomach and you breathe in and out and you just focus on the dog going up and down. So that helps me because I like dogs. I've used mindfulness in basketball or youth group because there are kids that get on my nerves or don't listen to like the pastor or like the teacher or the coach. So I get angry. So I have to focus and just not lash out and just breathe and breathe out, or else I'll make the other people angry too by getting angry at them.
What this really does for me is it gives me a place to come and relax and focus on my breathing when I'm having a harder time in school. Other schools should have this room because it gives all kids a place, or even adults, to come and just sit and not worry about what their surroundings are and just focus on themselves.
So those are my 8th graders. And as you guys know, we started with the teachers, and then from the teachers, it was meaningful for them, so then we brought it into the classroom. And my principal, Adam, wanted our school, they're together 9 whole years and they get really annoyed with each other. All the kids do, right? They're like a family. So he wanted the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to have ownership over something so they could be proud, so they could change their own annoyed behavior and have a little bit of self-awareness, self-management, right, amongst themselves. And so far, it's working. And they've done a really good job.
How do you manage the kids coming and going from the room in terms of how do you avoid double ups, and do kids just have to come back or wait or?
The kids like leaving to go teach a lesson? Is that what you
No,
mean?
no, just utilizing the break room.
Going in.
I could see
Yeah.
10 people wanting to go at the same time. And
Yeah.
Because you can't
So-
have all 10.
No. So we have some instructional aids and we have a text chain where all the instructional aids are on there. This is just how we started and it's not super ideal. But when there's like a greater need, we hope to, like all the case studies that I read from Mindful Schools that where people had these sorts of rooms, they had parents or they had volunteers in the room who housed it at all times. And at all times there was an adult in there. My community is so small, and if we put parents in there, they'd have to sign like a non-disclaimer of sorts or something. It wouldn't be healthy, I don't think, for parents to be sitting in there and then accidentally talk, you know, and kids go in there when they're happy too. We tell them if you're having a really good day, go in there, celebrate, be, you know, celebrating those happy thoughts. So they do that too, but for the most part, it's more for like de-escalation. But right now, like the teachers' aides, we all have their numbers on our phone. We send a quick text, and then one of them will respond and say, "I'm coming," and they'll come to our classroom, get the student, and then go down.
Oh, they get this, so the student
Yeah.
just doesn't ask, can I go to the?
Sometimes they do, yeah. Like Tatum, who you just saw, she came into my class one morning, and I looked at her. I'd known her for years, so I looked at her face. I'm like, "You are not going to learn anything today. Oh my gosh, what's going on with you?" Knew she wasn't going to talk to me, so I just said, "Do you want to go down to the peaceful place?" And she said yes. And I said, "Do you want to bring a friend?" Because her best friend is right there, right? She went yes. So I texted teachers aide, and they're 8th graders, so I just sent them the teachers aide, met them, and then they were there. There's a timer in there. They set the timer, and then she came back, and her face, her complexion was completely different. And at the end of the school day that day, she went, "Senora, it like worked." I was like, "I'm so glad." It's great because they're just becoming aware of it, right? And now they're teaching other kids to do that. So that's what it's. But the teachers aren't happy with the process of trying to send a text in the middle of instruction. It's cumbersome, right? So
the para walks them to and from class from there, okay.
Yeah. And it's not like a shameful thing, and it's not like there's no stigma so far attached to it because we made the room look a certain way that it's like this place that it's like Candyland. Everybody wants to go there. So
What's the time frame?
the timer is 10 minutes. And they usually are out for the full 10. Some kids who have bigger needs are gone for an hour. But, which is a good thing because the learning can happen in the
But it
classroom.
has to be self-directed at this point, meaning you don't have staff in there with them directing them how to breathe or what to do when they're there.
Yeah, for some of them, we have, I'll show you in the next video, there's a calming corner, which is from Generation Mindful. It's really cute. It's for people's homes. But it's step by step with pictures, so the little kids use that.
Oh.
And we've had our middle school students show them how.
Okay.
And then the instructional aides also know like how to use the room, all the tools that are available, and
Oh, so the aide that walks in there might also help. them
sometimes they
settle.
just sit outside the room, you know, or right in the doorway, and then the kids just come out, and that's the hope
What's the kind of approximate size?
of the room.
Yes.
It is not very big.
Mhm.
It is probably like this wall to like the other side of this table,
Mm.
and then
It's like this
like where I'm standing. Yeah, I mean it's a decent size. We were gonna put it in a smaller room that had windows, but then we decided this windowless room, we put it in there, so you could be like encased in this peaceful place.
Can I add a few things?
Yeah.
So one is if you email me, I can also send you a handout on how to design the peaceful place.
I have some too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So there's that. Some people use a corner of a room. In some offices where the clerical support gets a lot of students where they have to support and they're not really able to do the job, they've set up what we call calm down zones. In that area, the CDZs or the Zen zones. So they can be set up on the floor, they can be a 3x3 space. It's just a matter of how does it feel. So some teachers are even creating these spaces too in their classrooms. The other is one school has been totally innovative. I was shocked their teachers believe in it so much but can't get it staffed, that they are actually rotating their prep period.
That's what we're gonna do next year.
Yeah, and that's the thing, if it's voluntary, then there's not an issue, and they're only giving up a prep period every like 2 weeks. So it's not a lot, and they're all benefiting from it. And so that's how they've been getting around not having the funding to staff it and see that it's working. But yeah,
You
it's
still
10
have your
minutes.
prep,
Exactly.
and then sometimes kids come in, sometimes they don't, and so you still have your time alone.
Right,
That's what
or
we're
you can
trying.
work, because even when they do come in, you're not really overly engaging them or coaching them, you're giving them space and the thing is that everyone needs to be trained how to be in that space.
I think that's key, like that's something that we really had to focus on. We actually are fortunate, we have full classroom space, but training everybody. So we have teacher counselors, and they trained every single child and teacher on the use of the room. Teachers can book our room for whole class lessons, but what they did was with bins, and in each bin is all of the material and the lessons. And so the children will go in and they know which bin that they need in that moment. So like your student that talked about the stuffy, like we have that in a bin.
Yeah.
So they pull the bin out and they know they lay on the floor and they get to pick which stuffy they want on their belly for that belly breathing. And they have favorite stuffies because they've been in there a lot. But I think that's the important piece is everybody knows how it works. They all know to take their shoes off at the doorway. And on our door, we have like the entry activity so that you ground yourself when you're coming in. And then on the exit door, you know, that exit one so that you're not just rushing out. There's
Yeah.
actually a very intentional exit from the room. But yeah, I love to hear the older kids talk about it because our younger kids
Yeah.
aren't there yet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm surprised by some of their answers and by some of their feedback, and really happy as well.
Sorry
Yeah,
to ask some
no.
questions, but did you have any issues with, the room being used incorrectly, like for students that are escalated? Because it can't be a de-escalation space per se, because if you're, because we in our district, we rolled out a district-wide sensory room program, which is not a mindfulness room, it's sensory
Yeah.
rooms. When enrolling that out, some of we aligned it with the zones of regulation, so students have to identify what color they are essentially, when they come in, what color they are when they leave, based on the rules of the zones. And so but one of the things we had to really incorporate and be strong about is it's not a de-escalation room. Like in other words, if you're red, you're not allowed in the room.
Yeah.
Because the equipment and everything, it's not meant to withhold or students that are in red.
Yeah.
So I can see that if something like this was rolled out, we have that same issue where this, especially now in the day of the state of Illinois, we have stricter rules by isolate timeout and rooms of such nature. So it's just interesting, like how to make sure that that gets addressed, because
Yeah.
they can benefit from that space, but only when they're
Right.
in a place where they're not.
We had, we used to have, my principal, Adam, has shifted a lot of things, and so he changed, we had an open house, which was your traditional open house that like I know my parents were accustomed to going to when I was in school. We used to do this formalized curriculum night where we all did presentations, and it was a lot of pressure, and we were scared of parents criticizing us, and we would, here's our curriculum, and the parents didn't actually, I don't think, care about our curriculum. Like, we opened our school up for 3 hours, and I think that really helped with the room. It was new this year, and everybody just walked around, and everybody like was in the peaceful place, and the parents were like, can I book time in here? Like, what, is it booked at like 9:30 a.m., Lauren? Because that's like my time. How about 2? Can I come at 2? And so I think the fact that we said this is what this is, and we have a sign outside the door that says, in this room and the kids filled it up with words, and one of them is de-escalate, one of them is regulate, one of them is meditate. I mean, it's all sorts of words because the kids came up with the ideas. But I think that probably helped the open house, because it is a de-escalation room. It can be used that way. We don't have the zones in there. We rather have the calm corner where it says, how are you? You identify your feeling.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think that based on because now we do have that district-wide, but I wouldn't want to put a breathing room or a mindfulness room in the same room as a sensory room. It's
Because
just
of
for a
the,
different purpose.
yeah.
But it's just that teachers are always looking for a place to send the escalated student.
Right.
And I'm just that's something that we're still trying to problem solve, like what do we do with this? But in one of our buildings, we have something called the recovery room, which is serving that purpose right now. But that recovery room really couldn't necessarily be the same space as a mindfulness room.
Yeah.
Because of the state of the mind of who's coming in. It's just
Yeah.
interesting. You need spaces for a lot of different things.
It's true, and ours serves all those purposes, oddly,
Yeah.
and we're a smaller school,
Yeah,
so.
it would never work in my building that I am associated with because there's way too many kids that would go in and just start destroying the room.
Yeah,
I
What
mean,
grade
oh,
level
totally.
are you at?
The school I'm
It
talking
depends
about
on
is
grade level.
middle school.
Middle school.
yeah.
How was the materials in there funded?
A lot of the stuff that's in there, I moved and it's from my house. Like some of my like beautiful artwork and things like that. Some of the furniture pieces, the pillows were like from my house that were in storage. So that's some of it. And then others, it was funded just through my school paid for it. Like just the, you'll see the furniture in
PTO
there.
or like a parent funding or
No,
there's no
this-
title funding?
there is no title for it. I just asked my principal and he said, just put together a sheet, Lauren, and I did, and it had to be budgeted, you know. There was, he was like, no. Yes. So, and then the kids had ideas too, once I harnessed the space and put what I wanted in there and thought was necessary, we then asked our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, because we wanted them to be, you know, leaders of it, right? So they had some ideas, like there's a basketball hoop in there, we made up mindful basketball.
Yeah, and then, and I'm sorry if you're going, you mentioned that you first started this with teachers. So
Yes.
is there a room in your building that's a
No.
mindful room for teachers?
I just was referring to
Oh,
our
okay.
Take 5, we meditated last school year
okay.
together, and that used to happen in my class,
Mhm.
the Spanish classroom, but now it happens in our peaceful place. And now teachers meet there either in the morning or whenever they want throughout the day. Yeah. But in saying that, I just think that's where the research lies too. You start with the teachers, you do the teachers, right? And then jump it into the
I
students.
just want to add, I'm in a high school and I have we call it the Calm Room this year, but next year I'm going to change the name to Mindful Moment Room. I started off with Calm Room and we use an office space. We had someone to leave, an instructional coach, and they didn't replace that position, so it's an office space. And at first I thought that was kind of small, and I wanted the conference room, and the counselors were like, no, we need our conference room. So I said, all right, I'll take the office, and it's worked out perfectly. And the principal initially, he didn't want it to be a hangout room. So
Right.
he was like, let's make sure we have some parameters so that it's not a
Yeah.
hangout room. And it's worked out great. We never have more than 2 students in there. There's a referral process where the kids can self-refer, but once they get to the counseling center, they have to check in with our secretary and just fill out the form. It's real like time in. Do you need to talk to someone, yes or no? Because sometimes they just need a space. They just want to go in there and cry or just be alone or reset. And they don't necessarily want to talk to someone, but if they do want to talk to someone, they can talk to any of the counselors. They can talk to me. You know, or we'll have the teacher refer them from the class, like this person needs some time. So, and it's worked out, it's pretty good. It's worked out good in the high school setting. And I know with the younger kids, it has to be a little bit more supervised, and you're teaching them techniques and things like that. I know there's a school in Baltimore that has that Holistic Life Foundation or whatever I think it is, and they have actual staff, people that are in the rooms and things like that. Like I don't need that necessarily in my school, but I could see how what I had thought about if it got to that point, or if I grew the program, was that I would partner with agencies. There's lots of mindfulness agencies, people that are willing to do volunteer work and get people in there a couple of days a week to work with students on breath work and things like that. Because right now I'm kind of the one in the building that does it. Like if they land in my office versus the council, like I'm doing those exercises with them. But it'd be good to have a partnership, not with parents, because then you have that confidentiality piece, but with community partners maybe that are already doing the work.
And all the trainings the videos I've watched online, the different studies, the dynamic of schools that use mindfulness as like an operating system or as, you know, a curriculum in their school. The population at the school is very different from mine. And the issues are very different from mine. Kids are coming in with no breakfast, you know, their parents weren't home all night, or, you know, these issues that I don't necessarily see in my building. We have them, they're just not the main issue. But whatever the trauma is, it needs to be helped, right? It needs to be serviced. One of my 7th grade boys was like in a ball in the corner the other day, like during musical practice, and he's on his phone, and I'm like, what are you doing? He's supposed to be listening and practicing the script that they're doing. And he wouldn't tell me, and then after the hour of he was like, I hurt my ankle again, and my mom told me to wear my brace, and now I don't think I'm gonna play baseball in the tryouts. And I was like, oh my God, buddy, it's gonna be okay. You know it is, right? Like, but that was his trauma, and the whole time he's in a ball in the corner, he's so worried. He's not gonna be able to play baseball. So different trauma, different, you know, but it was affecting him so much that he balled himself up. He's one of my leaders too. I should have just breathed, he said. You're doing it now. You told me about it. Good job. Thank you guys for everything that you shared. So this is Adam. He'll just talk about how we implemented it in a more special services kind of way to meet different tiers, different standards, different things like that.
Hi, my name is Adam Gilbert. I'm the Principal and Director of Student Services in Bannockburn School District 106, the home.
This turned off while we were chatting. There we go. You guys will be able to hear. All right. It's a go.
Hi, my name is Adam Yelbergo. I'm the Principal and Director of Student Services in Bannockburn School District 106, the home of the amazing Happy Mindful Change. This is Lauren Beversdorf. And I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk a little bit about our philosophy here in Bannockburn on mindfulness, and specifically how it relates to social emotional learning and teacher wellness. From the social emotional standpoint, we have really
Sorry, I want to say one thing, and then we'll go back to Adam. You know how he called me amazing? I don't know if you caught that, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn. That's what he does all the time to every teacher in my building. Every single encounter we have with him, he says something positive about us. Every single time we see him. And that is what's changed the entire culture at my school. Every time he says something positive to each and every one of us. Walking down the hallway, you were talking about the walk. We know that encounter with him is going to be something that uplifts us. And he's changed the culture. So see, he started the friggin' video that way. That's him.
Hi, my name is Adam Yelbergo. I'm the Principal and Director of Student Services in Bannockburn School District 106, the home of the amazing Happy Mindful Change. This is Lauren Beversdorf. And I just wanted to take a couple minutes to talk a little bit about our philosophy here in Bannockburn on mindfulness, and specifically how it relates to social emotional learning and teacher wellness. From the social emotional standpoint, we have really focused on mindfulness as a tool at the tier 1, 2, and 3 levels to help students identify when they are feeling dysregulated. And then to not only identify when they're there, but then what do they do when they're there? And so Lauren has worked extensively with our middle school mindful leadership team on developing tier 1 skills that they then go in and deliver to our primary and elementary school classrooms. And then the second piece of that is Lauren has really taken the lead on the tier 2 and 3 instruction of students who are struggling with dysregulation and understanding the origins of their behavior. And so she takes targeted groups and works with them in a mindfulness space that she created just this past summer leading into the 1920 school year. The second component of that is how mindfulness relates to teacher wellness. One of the things we are guilty of in this business is we are continuously asking teachers to ensure that students' well-being is their primary responsibility, as well as student achievement, but we never identify the teacher's needs in that process. And so what we really wanted to do is ensure that our teachers are feeling their best, so that when they get to their classrooms, they can give their best to each kid sitting in front of them. And so we have a mindfulness group here in our district. We have about 90% of our teachers involved in the mindfulness group. Some of them meet daily to practice mindfulness. Some of us, myself included, work on it at home before leaving for work in the morning. We've really taken an active role in ensuring that our school community, both staff and students, are feeling their best, and understanding that when they are not feeling their best, where they can reach out for support. The last piece I just want to mention, one of the things that happens when you're small school districts, from the administrative standpoint, is you get pushback and people will say, well, you can do that because you're small. I would argue that you could scale this program to any size. Really, it's a function of a small financial investment in training programs for your staff who are interested in delivering the instruction, and then building mindfulness into your MTSS program and identifying where it fits most critically into the Tier 1, 2, and 3 frameworks within that model. So I believe you can do it for any size school district. I believe that students and staff that work in high pressure environments, which is every teacher and student in today's modern world, I believe that mindfulness certainly has its place in our world, and I believe that every student and every staff member should be practicing it daily. Enjoy the rest of your PD.
That's Adam. Any questions? I should text him and just ask where the funding came from, because I honestly don't know. He said yes.
I could figure it out, but
Okay.
for myself, but I was just wondering,
I have no
on
idea.
your end.
I
Yeah.
filled out a form, he said yes, and I was like, woo!
Yeah.
So,
Title I won't buy furniture.
Matt, do you want to jump in here right after this?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So this is, these are just my 8th graders again, talking about the peaceful place, and then the rest of this presentation, you guys, is just yours. There's a ton more videos and articles and all sorts of stuff in there. But that's Tatum again, and then Julia and Amanda, and you'll see Pleroma again.
Welcome to the Peaceful Place. This is where we practice our mindfulness.
The calm corner, that thing next to the TV from Generation Mindful. Everything on the wall is from my house.
Hi, my name is Pleroma. I'm an 8th grade student that is a mindful leader, and this is the Hoberman ball. It helps breathe, so you breathe in and then breathe out. So it helps kids focus on this and their breathing. And also we have a chime, so when you ring it, and then you just focus, and then you breathe in and breathe out, and then you raise your hand once you don't hear it anymore.
Hi, my name is Amanda and I'm in 8th grade, and this is our yoga cabinet. So some students, one way they practice their mindfulness is by doing yoga. So we have a bunch of different yoga mats in here, and students can choose which one they want to use. And down here we have yoga blocks, and these are also used in yoga for your head, mostly if you're laying down and focusing on your breathing, you can rest your head on these.
I'm part of the Mindful Leaders in 8th grade. So this is the calming corner. This is the famous teepee where it's so comfortable you just sit in and relax your mind. And this is the calming corner where you can look at all the ways that you can describe your emotions and strategies to calm down.
Hi, my name is Tatum, and I'm in 8th grade, and these are our calming jars, and they allow kids to refocus by looking at the glitters and watching them fall, or looking at the liquid and watching it fall.
So some activities we have in here for the younger school or even the middle school kids is different types of ways they can be mindful. So there's a puzzle book, and then there's other books that they can focus on their breathing, and they're like pictures in them, so they can also see how it's done in the books.
Alright, these are our Mindful Leader journals, and they allow us to write our feelings in them, and then we reflect on our mindfulness in them as well.
And these are the mindful journals we use for lower school, where they can also reflect and be mindful, and where they can write down how to be mindful and how little pictures. Like when we go to their classes, we usually do some activities from here.
This is mindful basketball, so for like kids that like playing sports or something, can help focus while playing mindful basketball. So how you do it is you breathe first, you have to breathe in, and then breathe out, and then you're allowed to shoot a ball. And like you're not allowed to do anything aggressive like dunking and stuff like that to make noise, because you need to focus yourself. So
Totally made that up, Grace. It's not a thing.
Another mindful activity
It's his thing.
is our art
Yeah.
activity.
Yeah.
A lot of students use art as a way to calm down. So there's a whole drawing board here, and there's a bunch of different colored pencils and art supplies. There's more drawing activities down there.
So kids commonly use this whiteboard to express their emotions. Like most of the time, Senora Bay would write the question here, and there's a lot of magnets to describe all the emotions one kid can feel. So sometimes one kid can feel angry, they can punch that magnet. Or if they're feeling sly, they feel that one. And it's really helpful for the kids to express their emotions in a good way.
So some of the techniques I use at home to practice that I've learned from school for mindfulness is when I get mad at like my parents or my siblings, I focus on my breathing.
And when I'm at home and usually stressed about homework, I can use the mindful activities that we learn here to use in the home to calm down.
And then when I'm at home or I'm playing sports, I use the mindful activities as well, like breathing and counting to a certain number to help calm myself down.
Peaceful place.
Thanks for watching that, guys.
Good job.
I'm proud of those kids. So this is a video of the 7th graders teaching the 3rd graders. We use the Mindful Schools curriculum when you do their Educator Essentials course online. You get it as part of that. So simple that that's what the kids are going into the rooms and using. And they're able, I mean, I literally have given them 0 guidance, and so far we've had like 2 flop lessons and the rest have gone pretty well. But the rest of this presentation is totally yours. There's all sorts of research articles and videos and all sorts of different things you can use. So I'm gonna disconnect Matt. Yeah.
I'm so calm now from
From the peaceful
virtually
place,
experiencing the peaceful room.
We had a parent recently post to Facebook. It was really hilarious about the peaceful place. She took pictures of herself in there during parent-teacher conferences and then posted it, and then all of these other parents started commenting on it, you know, and oh my God, where is that? Like, why doesn't every school have one of those? So that was really wonderful, right? Like, that's a great use of Facebook to spread that sort of thing.
fully cognizant of the fact that we're beyond the point of diminishing returns in terms of bandwidth. Everyone's a little saturated. So I'll keep this short. Echoing sentiments that have already been expressed. It's really important to start with the adults. Research is confirming this. In fact, CASEL's recommendation number 2 for the implementation of school-wide SEL is build adult capacity. And that's largely because for most schools, teachers are the enduring culture. Kids come and go, parents come and go, admin comes and goes, the teachers remain. And if teachers aren't on board, good luck getting anything done. Because, again, for many teachers, their career trajectory is tied more specifically to a place, a singular place. And they're running a marathon, and many administrators, parents, and students are running a sprint. And so I think we forget that sometimes, and we think teachers aren't on board or they're whatever, and sometimes they're not, but sometimes it's just their pace is different and it's out of necessity. More than with any technique, lesson plan, or curriculum, we teach with who and how we are. This is what we've been saying all along today. What this means at Lake Forest High School is my job as well-being coordinator is kind of twofold. Create professional mindfulness and SEL-based professional development within the district, and then help departments integrate SEL and mindfulness into curriculum instruction. And so to the PD end, I created this PD model that starts with teacher identity, moves to teacher well-being, and then to classroom instruction and experiences. Typically, we think of professional development as starting with the technical aspects of curriculum and instruction, and in this, you notice it's last. Because if these first two are not on point, you can have someone, I mean, you've all experienced this, someone who has access to the most research-based resources, they are technically sound in their instruction, and they're still not an effective educator because of who they are or how they comport themselves in the instructional space. So it's, yes?
Can you explain teacher identity, how you approach that?
Absolutely. So we talk a lot about self-concept, right? And I use the research, Albert Bandura's research on self-efficacy and self-agency. And this is one of his great lines, is you cannot outperform your self-concept. So what's possible for you as a person, personally and professionally, is dictated by your self-understanding and your identity. And if your identity is such that, I don't want to oversimplify, but there are, based on the research, there's kind of two default settings to identity. One is approach the world as a threat. The other is approach the world as an opportunity. And these are really the evolutionary basic impulses of optimism and pessimism. And identity then seems to be a unique configuration of how you put that together in real time. And so do you put it together as in you're constantly finding opportunities and you're creatively exploring? Or are you constantly finding problems and rationalizing why it's important to protect yourself? And so I've led, well, I'm getting ahead. I'll go to the next one real quick. For the professional development, where is it? I took it out as I was sitting over. No, mindfulness and self-care PD. So we have 8 late starts a year designed where I teach this for an hour before school starts. Right? And so I've done courses on personality and pedagogy, where we did the Big 5 personality inventory, which is the most research-based personality inventory. We looked at what are personality traits. There's interesting research on why traits are are a better way to approach personality than personality types. Right? Because a lot of personality, like the Myers-Briggs, is looking for a type rather than a trait. You can measure a trait more than you can measure a type. And so we looked at the big 5 traits. We looked at how those, where we show up, something like trait openness, which is your openness to new experiences, creativity, etc. If you're a teacher who scores high on trait openness, well, how's that reflected in your instruction? Well, you're going to be more comfortable, your chaos threshold is higher. So when Johnny throws out a comment that seemingly has nothing to do with your lesson plan, you don't immediately shut it down and say, no, we're back to this. You say, oh, that's really interesting. What if we did go with that, right? Well, that's a personality trait. But that same teacher who is high in trait openness might marginalize and peripheralize kids who are more closed down and more type A and want, this is actually, I'm saying all this because it's been my problem as a teacher, is I'm like, you know, to the point where kids will just throw shit against the wall to see if I will be like, oh yeah, let's go with that and get me off task. But the students who I've historically frustrated in class are students who wouldn't score high in trait openness. They're more in the box and they want everything to be defined and delineated and explained very clearly. And to me, I'm like, well, there's no fun in that, right? So my instructional decisions and style then are based on my innate personality traits. And if I'm not aware of that, I can design classroom experiences that inadvertently marginalize different learning styles. So I've led courses on personality and pedagogy and looking at personality so close to us that it's transparent. But when you take these assessments, you're able to externalize it and see your tendencies in new ways. I've also done work on narrative identity and what's the story of our identity, and taking teachers through, like in workshop settings, have them construct in 5 or so chapters the story of their life to the present. What are those chapters? On what basis did you make those chapters? What would you title them? What are the main themes of each chapter? Who are the protagonists? Who are the antagonists? All sorts of things, right? So you're thinking about your identity through the lens of a story, and then ultimately from each chapter, how do your values emerge? Because the different chapters of your life, you can extract strengths and weaknesses, values, etc. Have teachers create a personal philosophy statement from that, and then future aspirations. So you kind of go past, present, future. Mindfulness wide versus deep paths. This is an old term that they've used in the history of mindfulness, the tradition of mindfulness. What it means is there's kind of 2 ways of approaching mindfulness. The wide path is the most inclusive. And this is for people just really interested in practical mindfulness. How can I do as little mindfulness as possible and reap the greatest benefits? And that's a realistic question, because not everyone wants to practice for a lot of time every day and go on retreats and make it their identity, right? And then the deep path is the path where someone says, wow, mindfulness is really important. And I really want to commit a large part of who I am to understanding this. And I think it's really in the deep path, going back to all the stuff I was talking about this morning about stress management, is that as we talked about those dominoes falling physiologically, it starts in the brain, goes, your hypothalamus to your pituitary to your adrenals, so on and so forth. Well, all of that begins with a fundamental psychological assessment of what is stressful and what is not. And that's really your identity. Your identity sets that up. Your self-concept sets up what's going to be perceived as stressful in your world and what's not. And so when you talk about the deep path of mindfulness, I think that's ultimately, from my experience, as someone I've tried to commit a lot of my life to practicing, is that's really what you start dealing with is realizing that some of your fundamental conceptions of the world based in your own story sometimes are maladaptive and invoke stress. And so in working with teachers in my district, I've offered all sorts of courses and opportunities to explore these things. Our programming has been, we've created courses. Wellness for Life is a course that now every freshman who comes into our high school takes. It's a year-long class that fulfills the PE and health requirements, but it is SEL based. So everything is based on stress management, and in this class, we introduce kids to their social workers. They do a scavenger hunt around the school. We do Mindfulness Monday. We talk about, you mentioned explanatory style, Martin Seligman's research. So
Do you teach that class?
I've taught Wellness for Life. I helped write the class, and then I've taught it for 3 years, but I don't teach it anymore. Other teachers, it originally started as a pilot, and we had just a couple sections, and then within a couple years, all these parents were signing their kids up for it, and then finally we just said, it's at the point where we're just gonna make it mandatory.
Is this
Now,
a replacement for PE, or it's or
PE is embedded within it, but
okay.
we do things like, instead of just saying, we're going playing kickball,
Right.
we work on developing.
Nothing wrong with kickball.
There's nothing wrong with kickball. In fact, I love kickball. You get a little too into it, they would laugh at me. But we look at physical movement as an opportunity, is somewhat also as a cognitive skill, right? So what's the most appropriate physical activity for my level of interest, my fitness needs and goals, my stress management, etc. So we try to create physical activity but wet it with a larger conceptual framework. I could go on and on about this class,
Yeah, no, the reason I asked is because my principal was, he sent out a survey or whatever, and he wanted to know, like, pitch some electives. And so I pitched, you know, like, let's make an elective class on mindfulness or well-being, and like Yale has a class on how to be happy that has like, so anyway, I was basing it on that, but then I was wondering if he bites and says, okay, yeah, he asks, you know, is there a curriculum in the questionnaire or whatever, then what will that look like? Because me as a social worker, like, I can't, like, is this every day, an everyday class, like in high school? Because I'd want to be involved, but I don't know how.
It's on their GPA. So it's a required course, it's every day, and it's a part of their GPA.
So a teacher would need to, like, have a curriculum that they can.
We have a curriculum that they all
Who
use,
developed
yeah.
your curriculum?
What's
Did
that?
you have to write the curriculum yourself?
We did.
And then it had to get approved like through your
Mhm.
district's process, whatever that is.
Yeah.
So you wrote it, or?
I
you
helped
wrote it?
write a significant part of it, yeah.
Wow. Okay. You gonna box that up and sell it, or?
It's funny, the more of these
Yes.
talks that I do, people, when they hear me talking about this class, they're like,
You could be making a lot of money.
it's an awesome class. It's something we
pretty
do
cool.
very well. It's one of our notches in our belt, so to speak. Continuing with that, team leadership is a course that came off of Wellness for Life because sophomore year, you take team leadership to be trained to become a TA for Wellness for Life. So now in Wellness for Life, I'm teaching a class on making good decisions in social settings. Okay. Well, they're not going to listen to me because I'm me, right? But if you have a junior and senior who's taking the lead on that lesson, and I leave the room, and I've worked with the TAs beforehand and said, so you tell me what you think is valuable advice. What would you want to tell your freshman self? Make a list, right? And I walk them through a kind of a rough lesson plan thing. And then I literally leave the room, and these kids, they take over. They lead the lesson, the juniors and seniors. And it's so much more powerful hearing it from a peer who, when you're a freshman, seniors are so cool, right? So when they are teaching it, it's just more salient. And then advanced health is an opportunity, junior or senior year. It's a semester elective to pursue these things further in greater detail. In that class, we have an interesting unit where you have to carry a baby around, and it's a fake baby, but it cries on intervals, you have to feed it, and all this stuff, and so they have to bring it. It's cool stuff. And then in terms of actual mindfulness programming, there's stuff for students, teachers, departments, and I've done over 200 mindfulness drop-ins over the last 3 years, where people will have me come in. It's AP testing, help us relax, or everyone seems stressed out and bummed out. To come in and have us do something that's upregulating, uplifting, whatever it is. For students, we offer, there's a mindfulness group, like a mindfulness club. I do mindfulness with a lot of the sports teams. Any student can reach out to me at any point and set up personal mindfulness consults or whatever. Social workers will often refer certain kids with high anxiety to me. There was a student, was it last year, who had super high anxiety. She had a pass where she could get out of class. We would go walk and practice breathing and do all sorts of things. So for the students, it's really based on their level of interest. A lot of it is embedded in Wellness for Life.
So you're in the school building, but not, are you still in the classroom? You still have
I'm
class
still in the
and
classroom
teaching?
part-time.
Oh, part-time, okay.
Yep. I won't give that up. So, I ran a professional development course within the district. I think 12 teachers took it, kind of training, mindfulness basics, etc. So now a lot of those teachers are doing it, so the students it's spreading in that way. Teachers, we have mindfulness every Friday before school. We have individual mindfulness self-care drop-ins. I'll meet with teachers. Just had a teacher recently who said she was losing her shit. Sorry, I swore on the camera. And so we walked through and did some stuff. So it was an opportunity for her to develop some practices without it being quote unquote therapy or something. I work with the special ed department every other week. We have a special ed mindfulness time slot in the morning, and then mindfulness drop-ins to different classes. Then more and more, I'm working on integrating SEL into departmental curriculum. So how we did Wellness for Life, now the science department is doing a universal freshman science class, and embedded within that class, we're starting with integrating the skills of self-awareness and self-management. So it's one class that every freshman will take in science, and it's working with the teachers, how does self-awareness and self-management show up in your curriculum and instruction? Where is it implicit? Where is it explicit? Where could it be developed where it's entirely absent? And so we're working on things like a lot of the stuff I was talking about this morning, about the brain and stress management. We're integrating that now into bio for freshmen. So they're not just learning about mindfulness in the abstract, they're actually looking at the science of mindfulness and self-regulation, self-awareness. History, listen to this is amazing. The history department is doing the same thing. And in theirs, they're looking at self-awareness and self-management in terms of identity and how place and the history of place shows up within one's identity. So how identity is historical and connected to place and abstract symbols of place. So we're going crazy with it. The English department has writing workshop. We do narrative identity in terms of writing, peer conferring, all sorts of stuff. So this is the ideal situation where SEL is no longer talked about as SEL, like this separate thing, where it's actually just in the academic content.
And can I just plug?
Absolutely.
Like, this is, full integration is what all the research says for high school. For secondary, middle, and high school. So he's nailing it. He knows it already though. I'm just saying that's what all the research says. The younger kids, they can have it isolated. The older kids, it has to be integrated. This is masterful.
And the more it's integrated with the, especially high school kids, the more it's something external, the more they're kind of like, this is a gimmick.
Right.
But when they see you honoring it with curricular time, then they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is actually important.
Like when we
What a
did,
concept.
can I interject really fast?
Yeah.
I did it separately in Spanish class with my middle schoolers, and it's hard with middle schoolers because they don't like anything ever. And so I would start Spanish class with like a mindful minute. And they, you know, there was little bits of buy-in. I just ignored the kids who weren't buying in. Whereas my little ones, K through 5, they look like they're on drugs when we do like mindful stuff, right? Like they're so relaxed, they're right in it. But and now we start our day with a mindful minute, so it's something the whole school does every single day. My students, I wrote them a bunch of scripts, they read it on the announcements, and every teacher sits for 1 straight minute, except for one teacher, he teaches right through it, but that's okay.
Can't always be 100%. It's
Yeah.
all right.
and, yeah, and even the kids complain about him, like the middle schoolers are like, why is it Mr., you know? And
But they stand out.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But it's now it's a thing the whole school does, and so they know they can stop in any point in any class and do that same thing.
Can I ask you about the special ed? I heard you, are you doing a separate group with the special
Yeah.
education students before class?
The head of the special ed department said, this is awesome, we have so much stress, just given the nature of the work of special ed. So they have their own departmental time to do mindfulness.
For the teachers?
For the entire department, and
Okay, not
the
the students.
teaching assistants
Okay.
in special ed. Yeah. Then, yeah,
How'd you do this?
I mean, it's not me.
But I mean, how did administration, like, how did you?
I think
I mean,
when
you're getting
you,
paid to be a wellness coordinator.
when you have 3 kids in a month and a half walk in front of a train, and you have 3 other kids in the same year who are recent graduates commit suicide. Again, talk about the 4 horses of mindfulness, the parable, right? We got whipped, and it caught our attention. And when you realize, again, doesn't matter if you can check off all the boxes on the rubric of academic achievement if you're not well. And so, it's interesting now that that's 8 years in the rearview mirror, we're starting at times to get back into bad habits, because distance from tragedy creates forgetfulness. Especially as cultures slowly change over time, you get new people in and who weren't a part of that, and those kids leave and their parents leave, and so it's a fresh, and you get new parents who come in and they didn't see that, maybe they didn't even live in the community at that time. So it's on us to help them not forget why we're doing what we do.
Has this changed those statistics?
Has
You
the-
had less students commit suicide?
I don't even want to answer that.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I don't like.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm very weird and superstitious about stuff like that. My wife thinks I'm crazy. She's always like, "Oh, you're not going to get sick." I'm like, "Why are you saying that?"
There's been multiple positive outcomes.
Right. Also, leveraging community resources to be involved in the school. So we have a organization called CROIA, Committee Representing Our Young Adults. They come into the building, they help with team leadership training, they do retreats. So they're an integral community asset that works hand in hand with the school. We have LEAD that works on substance use and abuse and prevention, educating parents. They do talks within the district, within the school. All the time we have Speak Up, Text a Tip. So if any kid needs something at any time, they can text to get advice, etc. Mindfulness and self-care PD, I already talked about that, and the dean's office now is also switching to more restorative practices. Whatever, I'll stop. But that's the gist.
Can I ask you a safer question though? To Duke's point about how do you get started, and obviously you're blessed in Lake Forest with resources and community support and the urgency that you described. But would you see this, I mean, Title II, I think, is about recruiting and retaining great teachers and professional development. It sounds like a lot of these, especially the staff wellness piece, would be something that would qualify under Title II. And is that common for school districts that maybe are strapped for cash and strapped for the support to build something in that's really designed to get the teachers to be more like you had said about the oxygen mask, or the teacher space first, to use the federal support to at least get it started as an expectation that it would then be in place for the students. And I don't know if Lake Forest uses title funding.
I can't answer that for a particular district. I know that my position, an aspect of its creation was we didn't want to export or outsource our problems to someone else to come in and import solutions, right? And that's what a lot of school districts do. They pay a ton of money to export their problems to then import external solutions. We have a very competent, intelligent, and skeptical faculty. So when people come in and you could be just a genius in anything and have a ton of research and whatever, and we're gonna be like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how we are. So, but if you have someone within the building who's trying to leverage things and do things, we've just gotten way more traction doing it that way. And it's also way cheaper than putting a lot of dough into experts.
And I didn't mean like hiring people in, but just if you were strapped for resources, seeing a room like yours, that is a rare commodity in a lot of places. Those are classrooms in some places, but to see that you were able to provide your own furnishings and whatnot, that if getting the money to develop the curriculum, to even release teachers for some time so that they could begin to immerse themselves and get deeper into an understanding, and using the federal funding that could be a way for a district to support it if they didn't have any other resource. But maybe there's other districts that are also here represented, and they've got some tips on how to maybe make that happen.
I think that if you start with what you have and maximize that, and then ask for funds, that would be the better progression than just assuming that there's interest and drive, and then trying to do it that way.
I had a high school principal tell me, don't ever let a principal tell you that they don't have money, because high schools have the most money out of the elementary, middle, and high. They have those discretionary funds and things like that. I know that Target has grants and things like that, so a lot of times you can use grants. My principal funded me purchasing, I think I asked for like $1,200, and I didn't spend it all right away. Most of the money was on furniture. But for those districts that do receive the Title I funding, those are usually those high needs schools. Yeah, it can be difficult finding the resources and things like that. And sometimes the parent associations aren't as strong or supportive, you find. So I would say through the grants, but if you have a principal that's supportive, they can find money.
My principal said he's still typing, but he initially wrote, it came from, when asked, because I don't know where the money came from for some of the furniture in there, he said it can come from curriculum since it's MTSS, which is a Gen Ed initiative, and now he's still typing. But I've worked in another district where they had a wellness initiative for their staff, and I don't know how that was funded, but I know it was funded, and it wasn't a very, a pretty average school district where they weren't super resource rich, but had anything that I've ever seen in a regular old school, right? And they started with their teachers as well, and the funding, I don't know where it came from, but somewhere, and it was just for the teachers. And they could, if they wanted to have a yearly, like the Calm app is like $60 a year, and so they could have that paid for them, or like a gym membership, something like that. And that was funded through the school, but.
No, I'm looking just from a systemic perspective, because typically like mentoring and induction, that's a a great example of how Title II funds are to be used. But I see this as being something that so many districts maybe haven't had an opportunity to really make it a deep dive with all staff. And so bringing people in, that's probably an easy lift, but as you said, through attrition and through those who won't comply with the warning message, you know, having that support and the funding to keep it going. So, I mean, I think we're blessed to be able to send teachers and administrators to a conference like this, but then to be able to go back and implement with fidelity across an entire system. And just, so I'll do my homework on that and see what is out there.
We brought someone in, like a company, about 10 years ago to my school to do this, really. It was mindfulness, but it was not called mindfulness. And it didn't go well. And there were like teachers yelling, like, this is against my religion, that sort of thing. And then when it came from us, you know, when it came from the actual people that work there, it just went so much smoother. It was so, it's a natural process, and it's just evolving as it should for the school, it seems, you know.
No, I agree, and I think 100%.
Yeah.
I've seen enough of the Schmeckspurs, as they Nothing better than within your own culture and family to bring that new awakening of why this is so important.
Yeah.
Well, as we start to close, we have Tracy here who's going to talk about some of the final requirements in terms of getting the credits and whatnot and completing the admin academy. So,
well, thank you everybody for coming. We kind of are figuring this out as we go. This summer, one of our board members, Gene Olson, he's the treasurer for IAASE, Leaders in Special Education, and there was a grant opportunity to write a proposal. It was through Special Education Leadership Academy. It was all quite overwhelming, and I did my best to read through, like, what are the requirements, and we put together a rubric. And then DuPage Regional Office of Education was so helpful, and we had to partner with them. Not had to, but we needed an ROE to submit it to the ISBE to get it approved. What we have found out since is that our academy is quite different than other academies and a little more intensive than other ones. A lot of them are just, you know, you come for 6 hours, you do your assignment within those 6 hours, and then you're done. But we felt like at first we're like, oh, we did it wrong, and then we're like, no, this is mindfulness. Like, this is different. You know, it's not just 6 hours, you're done. So we think what's really special about it is that we can continue the mentorship after today, because you've probably been inundated with information, and I see some of the books out there. Some people have gotten the books already. One thing I learned with the book, that if you've never done like a Kindle book on Amazon, the first one's free. So if you want to just go on and get the book that way and read it that way, it's just a really, they probably talked about this maybe already, but Toby brought up this book, that you've used this book before, and it just seemed really concise. It was written by an assistant superintendent. She's now retired, but yeah. Oops. Go ahead.
So is there an opportunity to get grad credits through this and through DuPage, or is it just the?
No, not grad credits,
okay.
But we found out that you can get Administrator Academy credits. So if you're administrator and need those special types, how many are there? Is there any?
I think it might just be me.
It might just be you.
Yeah.
So you're the
Which
only
is
one.
okay.
Yes, you're the only one who officially has to submit an assignment.
And that's fine.
That's fine. Yes. And I don't have. Did during the day, did you work on action plans together, or have you done anything at all with paper in the back? Okay, so we can help you with that. Officially, it's supposed to, not official, I don't know. Nothing's official, right?
We're just winging
it. We're learning as we go. So I think within like the next week or two, if we could work on, have you filling out the action plan, and we can help you with that. Yeah, and we could get it done today and zip through it. I'm sure we could use some of the examples from Lake Forest and stuff to help you even do that today or by the end of the conference. But for everyone else, you can mark off CEU or PBs and you'll get, so it's different than the type of credits that the other people today will be getting in the other workshops. I don't know how different. I think maybe different in the way that we have to, well, since it's an official administrator academy, we pay like an extra $15 and it goes through a different process. So that might be why you needed to give your home address, that maybe it goes through maybe a longer process because it's administrator academy, and then you might get sent. Basically, we're learning as we go, and I will communicate with you.
Yeah, because I don't think I gave my home address.
Or school, however, wherever you want something potentially sent to you from the ROE. That if you have your name and an address, that it will get to you.
So are we paying you the
No, it's all, yes. So it's just a little different process because it's an administrator academy that we need to follow. And we're learning as we go, and so I'll keep communicating that with you. But it's important that everybody sign in and out. So when we're done, are we gonna go till 4 or are we pretty much done?
We're done, because we're fried. I guess.
Yes, yeah, I agree. So if you have any specific questions, ask me, otherwise I'll keep communicating those. We're gonna have 2 mentoring sessions online using Google Meet. We'll try the first one since it's a smaller group, I think Google Meet will work fine. That's what we've been using for some of our other chapter meetings. And so we only have one person who officially needs to be there. And actually we had somebody from our January 2nd Administrator Academy. So it might just be the 2 of you on Google Meet.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, yeah. But we invite everybody to join in, because you pay the extra money to get the extra mentoring. And so we'll have 2 official ones. But again, we're connected now, so you can reach out to anybody at any time and email and continue the mentorship as things come up. And I think I guess I want to make sure everybody gets each other's emails as well. Yeah. Anything else that you can think of that we can help to continue what we've started today? Just let me know. Email me any ideas you have. Create a little mentoring group.
Will you be providing emails?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that.
About it.
And anything else you can think of, let me know.
I'm just asking.
All right.
Thank you. I'll finish this today. So
Yeah, we got the email with that attachment.
Before you leave, one good thing before you leave.
Actually, yeah, the Google Doc, the spreadsheet has everybody's, but.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
If anyone wants to stick around and talk about the suprachiasmatic nucleus, just let me know.
Please stand up.
I'll give you the presenter's email.
We are going to do like 30 seconds of dynamic mindfulness. Okay, so feet a little wider than hip distance. Deep breath, hands come up. Exhale, hands come down. One more time, deep breath, hands come up and stay up. And some of the kids I know, their favorite one is the shake out. In the right hand, shake 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right hand. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. That's the shake out. Everybody have a great rest of your night and see you in the morning.